Hey, what's up, guys? It's KG.codes here. Today, I want to talk about all of the or some of the coding questions I get through social media DMs. I get a lot of questions related to tech and coding and programming, software development through social media DMs, and I thought it'd be very beneficial, or could be beneficial, to share some of the questions and some of the answers that I give through DMs for some of these questions. Hopefully this helps somebody out there that's starting their programming career or starting their programming journey, coding journey, or trying to get in the tech field, or trying to become a tech entrepreneur. The first question I want to talk about is, where do you get your ideas to make an app? For that one, I generally draw my ideas to make an app from pain points that I have in my real life, like entertainment that I want, or some utility that I need that doesn't exist out there, or just something I wish was possible to do that, or an app existed for that I can't find. So for example, I made an app called Snippeta that is for copying and pasting text. Vanessa. For example, back when I made this app called Snippeta, I had the pain point of not being able to copy and paste text snippets really easily. Like, I always had to kind of do what you do on the phone, to drag and copy and then save it in the notepad somewhere, and then always go back to the notepad and drag and copy over it and paste it. I just wanted something where I could just put these snippets somewhere where I could just click one time and just copy to the clipboard, and then I could just paste it wherever real quickly and easily. And then also a way to organize these snippets in a way where they were easy to find and easy to copy for whatever I was trying to do. So that's kind of where I get my ideas from. The next question is, how did you start learning app development? So for me, I started app development. Well, I came out of college, and I didn't have any experience with app development coming out of college. But when I came out of college, I started working with 3 individuals that wanted to start a social media website and app. And we started with the website and quickly realized that we needed an app. And in my mind, I was like, there's no way I can build an app. I know how to build websites, but an app is just so far out there. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where you go build an app. And I was a programmer, I still didn't really know. But these guys really pushed me, and they knew I could do it. And I just started studying on Apple's website and tutorials online, and just Googled everything I needed to do, how to start, how to do this, how to do that. I literally just Googled it. I didn't even do a long tutorial, but I just Googled how to open, with Objective-C, which is Apple's, using Xcode and the coding language. Objective-C is how you used to build Apple apps when it first started. Now they have Swift, but I just started Googling how to set up a project. What do you download? I learned you download Xcode. I learned you needed a Mac. I learned that you program in Objective-C. I learned how to structure the app, how to start up, how to build a certain page. I just learned step by step everything you need to do instead of overwhelming myself. As I went, I just learned how to do new things. And before I knew it, I had an app ready to go, and I had deployed it to the App Store, and we got downloads. Not a lot of downloads. The whole thing pretty much failed, but we learned so much that we ended up going on and actually selling apps to other people, which was pretty cool. But yeah, that's how I got into app development. The next question is, what can you say on Bootstrap and Materialized CSS? Which CSS framework do you use and recommend? I'd say mostly right now, the CSS framework that I use is called Bulma. It's really clean. I like it because it's really clean, has really lightweight, has very, very clean syntax, and is built on top of Flexbox, so it's super responsive. I don't know why I'm malfunctioning, but it's super responsive. I used to use Bootstrap before that, which I thought was really good at the time. It still is. But the reason with frameworks, I'm a little careful with those, because depending on what I need to build, sometimes the CSS framework can get in the way. So if you're using all these pre-built components from a CSS framework and it doesn't match what your design is, then you end up doing more work trying to make the framework work with your design instead of just going from scratch and just building the CSS yourself. So a lot of times when I use a framework like Bulma or Bootstrap, I more or less will use the responsive tooling that it has. A lot of times I use the grid system and not the actual components or CSS, just to take advantage of that and build most of the styling myself. I think that's a good middle ground you can use to have it help you more than hurt you. But if I'm building like a small proof of concept or something like that, where I don't really care about, I don't want to have to build a styling myself, I don't really care, I might use the whole framework straight up. But Bulma and Bootstrap are the two that I've used the most in my career. The next pretty good question: how do you push through the days when you don't want to code? So my philosophy behind that, and behind anything you're trying to do that you need motivation and determination to do, is that we as humans are habitual beings. We like to form habits. Our physical bodies like to form habits. Our minds like to form habits. So a lot of times up front, there's a lot of value to kind of forcing yourself to do something up front, and it becomes easier over time to do that as your body and mind get used to the habit of doing that. So coding is no different from that. If you repeatedly code every day or every other day or at least 3 times a week, whatever you set that goal in mind, if you repeatedly do that, your body and mind will get used to doing that, and it will become easier and almost second nature, because your body is geared toward building habits. It likes habits, it craves habits. So that's kind of my philosophy behind it. I try to make sure I do something, even if it's something small. Just make sure you're touching coding at least once every day, or whatever your interval you decide it is. Even if that's once a week, just make sure you keep on that consistent interval to build that habit, to know that, okay, every 2 days I'm gonna come back and do some little thing. Even if it's been a rough day and I don't have time to, do a lot, I'm gonna do a little bit and keep that habit going. And that's my trick. It maybe not work for everybody, but it works for me, and I think it can work for a lot of people. The next question is, what is your dream project? So I'd say my dream project's nothing specific, but I love to have a project that just went organically viral and just had millions of people using it just organically. I didn't have to pay them to use it. It just blew up. Cause one of my passions for coding is just seeing people use what I do. Creating something and seeing people use it is just that ultimate validation that I get from programming. And my dream kind of life or professional life would be to be a serial entrepreneur / coder. So I can, having multiple projects that I build up and productize and make money from, and that's how I make my living, I'd be completely happy. And so that kind of all boils back down into that question of dream project, dream life. The next question is, do you code every day? How many days a week do you code? So not quite every day, but I code, it's pretty close to every day. I think, like I said in the earlier question, if you take too much time off from coding, then you start to forget things, you start to lose the habit that you formed up, and it just becomes harder to get back into it, and you become overwhelmed. Coding can be overwhelming because there's so much to learn and there's so much things you can do that when you leave it for a long time, it's one of those things that's hard to get back into and get that train going. So like I said earlier, forming habits and making sure you do things every day is, you just have to, even if you can't do it every day, pick an interval once a week. Promise yourself some sort of interval, every 2 days, every 3 days, whatever you can afford to do, and try to stick to it. And I know it's kind of off the topic of the question, but yes, I do almost code every day. The next question is one that's kind of specific, which is cool. Finish bachelor in CS, period. Like web development, period. Which one should I learn, React, Angular, or Vue? So for this question, I'd say as far as these 3 JavaScript frameworks, and I use the term framework usually. I know they say React is a library instead of a framework, but just putting that aside, using these frameworks, I'd say React is the most popular, with Angular probably a close second and Vue being the third. In my opinion, Vue is the easiest to learn as far as framework goes, and I think it's a great entry point for people getting into how to program JavaScript with frameworks. If I had a choice for which one you should learn first, it depends on your goals, of course, but if you're trying to get a job or you're trying to work with a lot of other devs, I would say React, since it's the most popular and it will have the most support on the internet. You'll have the most jobs in the market for it. And React is not as easy as Vue to learn, in my opinion, and not as clean a syntax. But once you learn Vue, or once you learn React, or once you learn Angular, which I haven't learned Angular, so I won't speak too much on that, but it's easy to switch back and forth, or it's easy to jump to the next after you learn the first. That's why I recommend Vue as the first. If you just don't have like goals in mind to try to, there's a lot of Vue jobs out there too, but just not as many as React. And React is backed by Facebook, so it does have a high probability of having a big community and long-lasting future. So I would probably say React to answer the question definitively, but Vue is my favorite out of the three. The next question is, what's the biggest challenge / obstacle you faced in your tech career, especially starting out? So I say my biggest struggle is probably not thinking I'm smart enough, and imposter syndrome, which imposter syndrome is a state of mind where you think you don't belong somewhere, you're not smart enough to be in the position that you're in or the situation that you're in. And that's a big thing for everybody, and it's something that doesn't go away. You just learn how to deal with it better. And how I learned to deal with it is just through pure effort. Just, I have the feeling, I always will have the feeling, it will always come back, but I learned to just push through pure effort and just learn what I need to, ask the questions I need to, don't be afraid to reach out to people, and just learn what I need to get through the task and get through this syndrome that I'm in at the case. A lot of times when you think other devs or other people are smarter than you, a lot of times it's not the case. It's more or less they just have more experience or have some more specific experience in that scenario and have maybe memorized more than you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're smarter than you. And most likely you have the capability to match whatever state they're at. You just need to get there. The next question is, what's the toughest tech product you had to figure out and build? So that probably was a vehicle data processor I had to do at my day job that needed to take in inventory and process it from millions of pieces of inventory data, or cars, vehicles, RVs, whatever, boats, from multiple data providers, aggregators. So all these different companies that keep vehicle data, I had to take in the data from multiple providers, which that could be CSV files, just plain CSV files, APIs that these providers had. No matter what it was, I had to be able to take all of these and funnel them into the same system, commonize the data, so make the data in all these different data formats look the exact same way, process it into our database system, and then output that data through an API I built to go to Facebook Marketplace. So Facebook Marketplace, if you don't know, you can see cars and stuff on there. Some of those cars you may see may come from the system I built, with others people, of course. But I had to be able to process millions of records a day, and I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes. I had to process it into a database, which is a database. Reads and writes are expensive, so I had to learn a lot of new tricks and optimizations in the database to be able to process the data fast enough to be able to support showing these vehicles in Facebook Marketplace, and also in our products. Our product had a little widget that showed vehicles too, and it had to be able to show that stuff, but I also had to be constantly syncing that data every day so that the inventory data was fresh, because cars get sold and bought and brought onto lots every day, so it was like constantly churning. And it was a tough project, and I learned a lot, and I'm happy I did it. And it's not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes, but I'm proud of it, and it went well, I think, overall. Okay, the last question I'll do in this volume 1 is app development a good source of passive income? Is it worth your time to create these apps? So I think app development can definitely yield multiple sources of income and passive income. if you productize the app in a way that it's making money for you and is scalable. So if you have a subscription system, or you're selling products, or selling some upgrades through the app or anything like that, you could build an app potentially to the point where you're making a lot more money than the work you're putting into it. I don't think anything's like truly passive. You always got to kind of keep things up to date over time, but you can get it to a point where it's pretty close with the right idea and the right app and the right execution. I think a lot of what I've been doing over the past couple of years is building a lot of apps for other people, which is very lucrative, but it's definitely not passive. Like, I'm actively building these apps for these clients every time. So I'm starting to lean, and have already started to lean more towards trying to make passive income through apps I build for myself and partnerships with some of the customers to get income over time based on their apps. But you definitely can make, you can make one app that literally, if it blows up, or even doesn't even have to blow up that much, but you can literally make an income off of one app done right, and not even have to put a 40 hours a week. You could be putting 10 hours a week into an app. It depends on what the app is. Some apps put them out there and people just buy it, and you don't have to do anything. You don't even have to update it for years. So it just depends. But it's definitely lucrative. But as anything, if the right things aren't put into place, and the right plan, right actions, right marketing, which is a big piece a lot of people forget, just build it and put it out there. You got to have a marketing plan, team, potentially ads, to get the right scale of people to see your app. But if you're done right, you can make a lot of money. All right, that's it. I hope that helps somebody getting into the industry, or current programmers that just want to hear a different perspective on answers to these questions. If you have any questions, let me know. Comment, DM me. Reach out to me however you want to, through social or whatever, and let me know if you have any more questions that you want me to answer in the future or right now. With that, I'm out.